っていたぜサトシ選手デッド技発動だ
Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokémon Journeys episode 131, the Finals 3, Supreme. Not sure if that last word is actually meant to be supreme, but hey, I don't know Japanese, so I'll just shut up. Anyways, this was the 1216th episode of the Pokemon anime, and part 3 of Ash vs. Leon. I don't think I need any more introduction, so let's get into it. So we're right back into the battle. Ash still has 4 Pokemon while Leon is down to 3. Leon is sending out Rillaboom, and did the narrator really just call this the single biggest Pokemon battle in history? I mean, he's not wrong, I guess. Okay, so Leon calls for Drum Beating right away, but Ash counters with Hurricane, which not only blocks the Drum Beating, but also lands some super effective damage. Rillaboom fights back though, first powering up the Drum Beating so it blocks the Hurricane, and then pushes even further, attacking Dragonite. This lowers Dragonite's speed, which is not going to be good because we already know that Leon's Rillaboom is extremely fast. Ash makes a questionable decision and goes for Dragonite Meteor next, which Leon is able to counter with Drum Beating, and even wraps up Dragonite almost like it's using Vine Whip. Dragonite ends up taking heavy damage, but is still standing. Ash's Dragonite closes in again, this time with Dragon Claw, but Leon calls for Acrobatics, and this is really bad because Rillaboom is super fast and nimble when using Acrobatics, which allows it to get in the perfect position to land the finishing blow, a double Palm Strike to the face. And with that, we're tied at 3 Pokemon apiece. Ash brings out Sirfetch'd next and just immediately goes for Meteor Assault, which Leon decides to meet head-on with high horsepower. Rillaboom is able to hold strong at first, but eventually Meteor Assault breaks through, landing major damage. For a second, Rillaboom looks down and out, but this was the Pokemon that took on more than half of Diantha's team. It's not finished just yet. Since Sirfetch'd has to recharge after using Meteor Assault, Leon basically gets a free hit in with high horsepower, and then Ash tells Sirfetch'd to ride its shield. This made no sense to me, but anyways. It's able to close in by dodging a Drum Beating, so Leon switches to Acrobatics, and man, Rillaboom is too OP with this move. That's another KO. Now Leon is up 3 Pokemon to 2. With all the momentum on his side, Leon starts to get a little cocky, saying that the battle is almost over, but I mean, come on. Ash has got the dream duo of Pikachu and Dracovish left. What could go wrong? All jokes aside, Dracovish is still in some kind of powered up state, as evident by its glowing scales, and after trading a few attacks, this matchup boils down to Dracovish using Dragon Rush, an especially powered up one now that Dracovish is trying to avenge Sirfetch'd, and Leon decides to face it head on with high horsepower. It looks like this went to a stalemate, but Dracovish is just too strong, and Rillaboom falls, defeated. Ash ties things back up, and Rillaboom lived up to expectations for me. That thing did damage. Next, we get a quick cameo from Clement and Bonnie, who played their own small parts in helping with Dracovish's development back before the Drasna battle. Leon sends Cinderace back out for the first time since the beginning of the match, and Ash still has to figure out how he's going to get past its Libero ability. And as much as Dracovish is powered up, it's still no match for Cinderace's speed, and we see it use High Jump Kick followed by Pyro Ball, so now we know that 3 of Cinderace's moves are Fire, Fighting, and Ground type. And we don't have to wait long to find out its 4th move, as Cinderace uses Iron Head to block an attempted Fishious Rend. I loved how Cinderace's battling style is always compared to a soccer player. It's definitely better at heading the ball than I ever was. Ash calls for another Dragon Rush, and well, it looks like we're set for a collision between Dragon Rush and High Jump Kick. Cinderace jumps high above Dracovish, dodging its attack and setting itself up for a clean hit. And yeah, I knew this was over as soon as I saw that Dracovish's scales had stopped glowing. Another KO in Leon's favor, and now Ash is down to his last Pokemon. Knowing this, Leon switches in Charizard, who is yet to even enter the battle. I thought maybe Ash would need to use like half his team to take this thing down, but instead, it's up to Pikachu to defeat Leon's last 2 Pokemon. Before the action can resume, Leon breaks the tension by explaining how Charizard has always been his partner, and Ash responds by saying that he and Pikachu are the same way. Both trainers vow to win this one with their partner, and Leon isn't going to waste any time before Gigantamaxing his Charizard. Ash has already used 2 battle mechanics, but now it's time for Leon's special technique. Leon's first max move is Max Rockfall. I was very surprised to see that, and Pikachu is able to jump over the rock, avoiding most of the damage, but the secondary effect of Max Rockfall does interrupt Pikachu by creating a brief sandstorm. Pikachu lands a hit with Iron Tail, which looked like it didn't even do a scratch, and Leon calls for Max Wormwind next. Pikachu just kind of takes this one head on, no creative counter like using Electro Web or anything like that. Pikachu just takes the brunt of the attack, which presumably lowered Pikachu's attack, but we didn't really see that. Ash knows that he needs something special to counter Gigantamax Charizard. It's time for he and Pikachu to use their full power, and we catch a glimpse of an excited watch party at the Pokemon school, including Gladian, who is watching from the corner of the room just off screen. Leon says that it's champion time and has G-Max Wildfire charged straight at 10 million volt Thunderbolt. We've seen some pretty big explosions before when moves have collided, but this may be the biggest explosion of energy we have ever seen during one of Ash's battles. They gave us this 360 animation of both Pokemon launching their attacks, while meanwhile their trainers shout about how amazing this moment is, and yeah, it's pretty epic, that's for sure. Just as the two moves really reach their peak, the scene changes to Hammerlock, where beneath the stadium we see Professor Magnolia and some other researchers monitoring Eternatus. Magnolia comments on how she's never seen anything like this before, and Eternatus ends up breaking through the container it's being held in, sending a beam of energy into the sky and flying away itself. Back at Winden Stadium, the G-Max Wildfire and 10 million volt Thunderbolts start to fade away, and Charizard reverts back to normal after using its third max move, but oddly, the sky doesn't return to normal. Dark clouds remain over the stadium. Everyone is taken aback by this, and the resident professor in the building speculates that maybe all the energy from the Z-move Gigantamax and Mega Evolution have caused this to happen. And what's that? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Eternatus flying over the stadium, and it doesn't look happy. I think I'm just going to start this discussion by giving my episode rating. I'm giving this episode a 10 out of 10 rating.
Oh my god!
I can't believe it! Where there's a town, there's a hamburger.
Bingo! Yeah, it's been a while since we've had one of these. I made this little bingo game back in April of 2021, and a year and a half later, I finally gave an episode a 10 out of 10 rating. We got our first bingo a few months ago, but now this adds a second bingo, checking off every tile in the bottom row. There's no way that we can check off every tile on this bingo card, but we may get another bingo next week. We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, enough about that. Let me get back to why I gave this episode a 10 out of 10. And look, I'll be honest, I'm super critical of Pokemon episodes when I'm giving them a rating. Like, I put a lot of thought into this rating process. I take it super seriously. But for an episode to be a 10 out of 10, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to leave me feeling like, wow, I just watched a 10 out of 10 episode. And I can truthfully say that when this episode finished, that's how I was feeling. I was almost speechless. It's almost indescribable in a way. Like, I could tell you all the things I liked about this episode. Ultimately, it really is just a feeling that I get when watching an episode, and I don't know how to transfer that feeling from me to you, so I'll just do my best to try and explain. For starters, the battle action was really good throughout this episode. That's already a strong base. I gave the last episode a 9 out of 10, and this episode just picked up where that one left off. The battling was just as good, if not even better. With this being the third episode of Ash and Leon's finals match, the tension was already there from the beginning of the episode. It was so easy for me to get lost in the moment, calling for Ash to switch out Sirfetch'd when it couldn't move after using Meteor Assault, or getting so fired up to see how Dracovish was going to help turn the tide in Ash's favor. I mean, I may as well have been Chloe and Dawn yelling from the stands. And then we got to Pikachu versus Charizard. I love the moment where Leon talked about how much Charizard means to him and how Ash feels the same way about he and Pikachu. It just made the moment feel special, and the clash between G-Max Wildfire and 10 million volt Thunderbolt. It wasn't even exactly what I was expecting, if I'm being honest. There was no super hype opening theme playing in the background or something like Type Wild. Instead, it was just this really understated track that conveyed the tension and magnitude of the moment. This may not have been the climactic finish to the battle, but it was the moment that this entire series has been building to. Ash and Leon facing each other at their absolute strongest with the whole world watching. And then the ending with Eternatus breaking out. This just made me want to see what happens next. So not only did this episode blow me away, but it left me wanting more. Wanting to see the next twist and turn. I don't think it's going to be another Darkest Day like Magnolia speculated, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. For now, let me just wrap up my thoughts about this episode. I don't think it was perfect. You could definitely pick some holes in this episode, and I have no doubt that my rating for this episode is probably higher than a lot of yours. And that's fine. I'm just really happy that I got to enjoy this episode. I looked for so many reasons why I should not give it a 10 out of 10, but I just couldn't. I felt like I had to rate it this way, and I'm sticking by it. Now, with that said, this episode may be setting the table for an even better conclusion next week. Or I may be incredibly disappointed. I honestly wouldn't be surprised either way. Just because I loved this episode, that doesn't really mean anything for what will happen next. Speaking of which, I guess now is as good a time as any to bring in the preview, which basically just teased that Eternatus is going to do something, and then Ash and Leon will resume battling. I'm sticking with my guess that Eternatus will unleash enough Galar particles to allow Ash and Leon one more use of Dynamax, but that still doesn't make it any more clear for me how the battle is going to finish. I'd like to think that my predictions are going to be correct and that Ash and Pikachu are going to get the job done and win, but it's also easy to see why that may not happen. I could easily see this going a variety of ways, including the rather interesting result of Pikachu and Charizard dueling to a double knockout only for Leon to win because Cinderace is still alive. That would be a strange way for this to end, but I could see it happening. I think I'm going to stick with Pikachu just straight up winning the battle for Ash outright, and man, if that happens, it's gonna be amazing. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Did you expect a 10 out of 10 from me? Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.